Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a live reaction and player ratings live stream following Chelsea 1, Liverpool 2. Or as I should call it, Liverpool 2, Chelsea 1, because we went and lost at Anfield again. Yeah, frustrating. Like, we'll debate it. Were we good? Were we bad? Were we robbed? Were we unlucky? Was it just one of those? We'll see. I think there's a lot of perspectives on this. I've seen a lot of perspectives. I think me and Ollie even have different perspectives. By the way, don't be weird at that. I just got my finger stuck in the door. That's why it looks weird. But yeah, we move. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you for tuning in. My apologies for not being able to come around to streaming during the international break. But honestly, other than Tuchel joining England, and I'm not English, that wasn't really much going on because Chelsea went from news every day to Chelsea never any news. So, that's with that, I guess. But yeah. Ollie, first of all, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very, very much. Let me look into your mind. What did you make of that game? Because it was, for me, the biggest takeaway I have from this game is that it was just a shit game. Because I feel like there was a lot of fouls, and even when there wasn't fouls, the ref constantly gave fouls. There was never any fluidity to the game. There was never any sustained attacking from either side, really. It was all just like we tried to pass out from the back because they tried to press us, and then when they had the ball, we kind of purposely didn't press them too high, so then they just passed around the back half the time, and then they tried to switch the ball, and then it was about, does Salah get past Gusto or not? That was essentially what the whole game was. And for us, the reverse opposite, we give the ball to Madueke or the other winger and hope that they do something. And that's kind of all it was. And in the first half, Sancho didn't do anything, and then in the second half, Neto did a bit of something, but then Maresca, for some reason, took Madueke off, and then we were awful for the last few minutes. I say that, two fairly big chances at the end. That Vega header, the Nkunku one, could he have gotten on the end of that cross? I don't know. But obviously close to scoring a goal, I guess. I know, sorry, Ollie, I started this monologue by saying, Ollie, let me look into your mind. So please, let me look into your mind 2 minutes later. What do you make of this now? Yeah. And also, what do you make of me saying, did we get robbed by the ref?
First of all, hi Loz, hi chat. Hope you guys are well. Always nice to be back on this channel. It's a pleasure as always. That was a frustrating game, wasn't it? There's a lot to be said. I think you're spot on when you just said it was a shit game, and that's true for so many reasons. Like in terms of just like our own performance, I thought we were predictable, we were sloppy, we were slow, disorganized, uninspiring, not very creative, and worst of all, boring. Insipid, just really anemic. Wasn't doing anything. I think I said to you, we struggled a lot in both boxes today. And you have your own opinions on that. We went back and forth a little bit on that, but that's I maintain. I thought we were really poor in both boxes today. It was also a shit game because, like you said, the flow of the game, there was absolutely no flow whatsoever. We couldn't win a 50-50 to save our lives, and the ones that we tried to win and did successfully win, the referee overturned them anyway and gave them as a foul to Liverpool. That's just the Anfield effect. That's how that works. Like you said, in terms of being robbed by the ref, I think the penalties they're kind of close calls. Probably, if I was the ref, I probably would have given the Sancho one as well. I think I would have given the Sancho one, and the second Colwill one probably should have been one each, but it was pretty close on all of them. Man, just a really, really frustrating game today. Like a lot of players had really poor games, and the few players who did pretty well were totally outshone by the players who really struggled. Liverpool did a really good job in terms of like stifling our play, sending us out wide. They put a lot of bodies in the middle of the park. They didn't allow us to play, get on the ball, hit the counter, do what the things we do. And the few times we did manage to do that, we actually almost hurt them. And of course, Jackson scored his goal, and we hurt them there as well. But yeah, just not good enough today. I tweeted out earlier. I said we're fourth in the top four, and that's like a pretty comfortable distinction. There's no chance of us getting third anytime soon. I think we've been a lot better than a lot of people have thought we're going to be this season, but we're still comfortably behind the top 3 teams in the league.
Did you feel that? I mean, I understand your point that you think we were poor. But do you think that Liverpool was so much better than us? Because that's the part I'm like, in terms of
more effective
how the game gave the momentum. Sure, in those moments they were pretty good, but in terms of that came after the penalty they got, and that came after. Well, to be honest, the stadium never probably realized that Sancho moment was close to being a penalty, but still. And then obviously we score, but 2 minutes later they they go 2-1 up again. So the momentum was kind of always on Liverpool's side. I didn't really feel that in the beginning of the game there was much on either side. I don't think we're much worse than Liverpool. That's all I'll say. But obviously, they were missing people today, and we were not. Well, I guess we were with Fofana and Cucurella, just not through injury, I suppose. Before we get into talking about player ratings and whatever else, because guys, we will need to head off by 7 p.m. UK time, so we've got a bit more than an hour. So we'll try to fit everything in that time. Let's quickly talk about, and I'm not sure if I'll have pictures for everything ready. So let's just keep good old Gusto on the screen. You touched on the penalties already. In general, let's have a quick conversation about refereeing decisions today. Now, the first big one of the game, was Tosin getting booked but not sent off for kind of dragging down Diogo Jota on the counter-attack by Liverpool. And a lot of, in particular, Arsenal fans, I'm not sure if your timeline screams the same as mine, but my timeline is screaming about how unfair PGMOL is because they sent off Saliba yesterday and didn't send off Tosin today. Now, before I give my thoughts, what do you think of that? Obviously, there are clear similarities, but do you think it is the same? Do you think it was a right decision today, a wrong decision yesterday? Do you think they were both correct? Where do you stand on that?
It's a really difficult one. I think the one yesterday with Saliba was 50-50. I wouldn't have been like if I was an Arsenal fan, I would feel really hard done by that decision. But at the same time, I can also understand why the referees had to do it. The biggest issue with things like this in comparing them is then they're not exactly the same situation. They do have considerable circumstances either way that actually do need to be taken into consideration for the actual event itself. So I was looking this up actually because I originally thought the same thing. I thought, well, why is one a red card and one's a yellow card? Because they look broadly similar in terms of like the offense, like a long ball over the top, the last defender brings him down, right, roughly near the halfway line. But then I started to look into it, right? So I was looking into the denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity, right? That's what constitutes a red card. And there are several things that need to be considered in Saliba's case versus Tosin's here. Right,
I've got both, by the way. Saliba's is here.
So the considerations for these is that it says the following must be considered, and this is from the FA's own website. So the distance between the offence and the goal, right? As you can see, Saliba's a little bit closer to the goal, but I'm not sure how much that's going to make a difference. Yeah. The general direction of play, it's roughly the same. And then the other two, likelihood of keeping or gaining control of the ball, you can sort of see there that's a bit of a 50-50 in terms of who has control of the ball there in effect between Tosin and Jota, because they're both kind of going for it. If you look in Saliba's one, if you cross over into Saliba's one, you can see that the Bournemouth defender is comfortably a yard ahead of Saliba when he brings him down. So there's something to be said about that. And then the last one is location and number of defenders, right? That has to be a consideration as well. As you can see there is absolutely nobody around Saliba, and Colwill is right there.
Closest to Saliba here is Ben White, somewhere over here.
He's literally just off screen on the right there. That's where Ben White is. So
he's about the halfway line as well, like not too different positioning in terms of level on the pitch.
Yeah, he's about 7-8 meters away, and Colwill is about a meter behind. So I think that's why that's gone the way it has there. So it's like if you look at the actual rules of the FA and you look at the considerations that you have to make in decisions like this, Tosin's is more likely to be a yellow card, and Saliba's is more likely to be a red card. But I don't think either team could have been upset necessarily if they were both the same. If they're both yellows or they're both reds, I'm not sure either team could complain. But I think it's the fact that they're slightly different is where that contention is.
Yeah, no, I agree exactly. You can see quite how close Colwill is. You can also see that Jota wasn't as Jota tried to run round Tosin while Saliba was trying to catch the other player, which I think also plays a part in changing the situation. But let's not change the situation in the fact that this is terrible defending from Tosin.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. He was ahead.
All he needed to do was put his body between the ball and Jota, and it's fine. But what does he do? Neither of those things, essentially, and lets Jota run round him, and then he drags him down. And then now, I think it's the right decision. But I think Tosin himself couldn't have complained too hard if he did get sent off, just because of how silly it was and how poor the defending it was. The only thing I'll say on it is, I don't know how best to put it, but like I say, the fact that Saliba is chasing and the guy was already running, while Jota would have had to wait for the ball to drop and actually control it, changes the whole scenario dramatically in terms of like the Saliba situation. The guy was running on goal.
Yeah,
Jota hadn't even got the ball yet, let alone was he running on goal.
And you do have to remember as well.
dramatically.
You do have to remember as well. Some people might not see it this way, but having literally that extra 5 yards further forward might be the difference there. You know, like in Arsenal's case. So like, it's really fine margins with this stuff. But like you say, I think if they were both the same, if they're both the same outcome, if both players got a yellow or both players got a red, I'm not sure anyone really would have complained. I think there's a contention there, but it's always important to read the rules of the game and see why decisions are made the way they are, because a lot of people actually don't read the rules of the game. They don't know them. And so when you do that, you can understand why.
The problem with that is the rules of the game also change every week. No, not every week, but every season. And that makes it very difficult for anybody to really stay on top of it, because realistically, normal football fans aren't going to read up on the new rules every summer, are they? And especially like handball rules, what VAR gets involved with and what VAR doesn't get involved with, and all these kind of decisions. And this brings us on to the next decision. You can see there, this was the moment that, in my opinion, means that we got robbed to an extent today. And this is the moment that Liverpool got the penalty. Now, do I think that this penalty for Liverpool is justified, even if on the softer side? Yes. Also, in combination with what happened a minute and a half earlier, where Colwill made a similar tackle on Salah, where I think it was more of a Salah dive than a foul. But because Colwill essentially did the same thing again 2 minutes later, well, he can't be surprised that he got the penalty against him. The thing that annoys me is that this happened multiple minutes before. So if we get awarded this penalty, we have the big chance with Cole Palmer going 1-0 up. And that just changes the complete complexity of the entire game. But my biggest issue with this is, look at where this happens. So this is the touch line behind the goal, right, guys? I'm sure most of you, 95% of you, watch the game, so you know what's happening. But still, this is the touch line. The ref is somewhere over there. The ref literally has no way, and so I'm not blaming the ref here. Has no way of seeing this step on Sancho's foot. There's no way the ref can see that. And that's perfectly fine. This is why we introduced VAR, because back in the day, you couldn't have even had much of a go at the ref for not seeing that, because these players are tumbling across each other, basically doing a waltz stance. Do you know what I mean? And then in one moment, one steps on the foot of the other. Very difficult to see. But this is what we have VAR for. And this is where I'm annoyed by VAR when I hear the commentator, because I was listening to the English commentary, and literally 2 seconds after the potential foul happened, the commentator was already saying VAR is looking at it. And another 5 seconds later, he said, yeah, VAR agrees with the on-field decision. I'm like, how can you agree with an on-field decision on something that I guarantee the ref has not seen? The ref simply didn't see that step on the other person's foot. So how can this is not a situation where it should be about blatant and obvious error, because that is completely gone out the window when the referee just hasn't seen it. This is a situation like when there's a massive, pylon somewhere and there's a fight breaking out and the ref doesn't see something going on in the background. And then there's, even before VAR, there was, in hindsight, they've given like red cards for violent conduct and whatever. This is that kind of situation where the ref just didn't see it. And no one can tell me that the ref saw that Trent stepped on Sancho's foot. Like, no one can tell me that the ref saw that. Absolutely no chance. So that just makes the whole I agree with the on-field decision by VAR just stupid. No, we're not here to agree with on-field decisions. You should make a decision and then you see, okay, how wrong is the decision if the ref decided something else on the pitch. But if the ref didn't see it, then obviously send the ref to the monitor. And let's change the situation of whenever the ref goes to the monitor, it automatically needs to, because like, for example, that Saliba one, the ref had given him a yellow. The ref did see everything that was happening. Sure, the only thing you could maybe argue he needs to look at again, how far Ben White was away, potentially, whatever. Those things maybe the ref needs to look at again on the monitor. But in the grand scheme of things, he had seen everything that was there. The only reason he was taken to the monitor is because VAR thought it was a red, and then by going to the monitor, they have more time to have conversation about it and not look silly because he stood on the pitch talking to these people for 2 minutes. So that's why they go to the monitor. But in this situation, he should go to the monitor to simply, there was actually no way of me seeing that because that was blocked from me. So therefore, I am now looking at it and now potentially awarding a penalty. But of course, that didn't happen. I mean, for me, look at this. It doesn't get more blatant for me than that. Like, how much more do you want than stepping on someone's foot? I mean, I know we had Kovacic sent off against Arsenal in an FA Cup final for someone stepping on Kovacic's foot. So I know we're used to this. But I know you said earlier they were like both kind of 50-50s, I think. But for me, this isn't 50-50. Like, what more do you want? Like, this isn't even him stepping on the toe. He stepped fully on the wrist of his foot. I don't know, man. But
I think the word you're looking for there is ankle.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough one, isn't it? Like, I think both pens I thought they were both pens and they were both soft. That's kind of what I ended up thinking. I don't blame the ref for not seeing it, but like you say, I think he's got to be sent over to the monitor at least to have a look at it.
Yeah.
I don't think that should be for VAR to decide. They should refer to the ref. The ref should go to the monitor and decide for himself because it's something he literally didn't see. Yeah, that's just one of the many things that didn't go in our favor today. I'm hesitant to call it a robbery because I don't think we were good enough to win or get a result from this game, regardless. In my opinion, I know if we get the penalty early and we score it, it's a different game. The momentum's different. But we could sit here all day and talk about.
But yeah, you're right. That is still speculation because we did score and conceded 2 minutes later. So who knows? Maybe we get this pen, score this pen, and they equalize 2 minutes later. So that could have happened. You're right. You're right with that. But we were still robbed of the opportunity of going 1-0 up, which we should have been.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It really is, and it's really annoying when a decision goes against you like this, and then a similar decision the other way also goes against you. Colwill's one is probably, if I had to say it, I think Colwill's one is probably a little bit more of a penalty than this one, but this is still a penalty.
Okay,
maybe a little bit. Just the difference is. I think the way Colwill comes across, it doesn't necessarily come across in that photo with the picture. He comes across.
It almost looks like Jones is stepping on his foot, which is not what happens.
Yeah, like the way Colwill comes across and tries to get the ball, he's like the total wrong side of Jones. So I know Trent isn't exactly the right side of Sancho there, but it's a bit more of a 50-50. It's a bit more ambiguous, but I still think both are pens.
Yeah, not here. I mean, like I say, when you look at this Colwill one back, obviously we can't look at videos, otherwise the Premier League will just copyright me. It does look like a bit soft, and the way Jones falls over is a bit weird. But I agree with you. You probably give a pen for that. Like I say, especially with what happened like a minute and a half before.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Is that's probably it's fresh in the ref's mind, isn't it? Listen, if Trent does a similar thing a minute later to Sancho, then we'll get a pen as well. It's one of those. It's not always fair, but it's how the game goes.
Exactly. And then we've got a last one. Hopefully I can find a moment that somewhat explains it, because I'm looking for not a video, obviously. And it might not be that. I mean, that one is probably a decent one, even though that obviously looks like the most blatant foul in the world. But essentially, Sanchez, the through ball goes in to Jones. Tosin is absolutely nowhere to be seen. Sanchez comes out, kind of swipes his foot, and initially I thought, what are you doing? But actually, he gets the ball with his shin, hits it against Jones' foot, then it goes underneath Sanchez's leg. Jones flips over it. Ref gives a penalty. Is called over to the monitor. Changes his mind. Correct decision in your mind that they overturned that decision?
Yeah, absolutely correct decision. He was right to overturn it. And rescind Sanchez's yellow card as well, because he clearly gets the ball. However, having said that, I'm really baffled a little bit by Sanchez's decision to go with his legs there and not just fucking dive at it with his hands. You can use your hands. Every other player cannot. Go for the ball, mate.
When you watch it back, because my commentators were saying that, essentially, like how everyone in the box was waiting for Jones to do something, but Jones just didn't do anything. He kind of like waited. He probably waited for Sanchez to go down and then do something, but Sanchez didn't do that, and therefore Jones didn't do anything. But that's why I think by the time Sanchez realized, okay, I should go for this with my hands, by that point he was in a bodily position where he couldn't go forward with his hands anymore. The one thing I'll say is, when I look at this penalty that Bournemouth got against us, and I know it's not the same situation, but I don't think it's that different. Now, I know Sanchez touches the ball here first, and against Bournemouth he doesn't touch the ball, but against Bournemouth Sanchez literally just stood there and the other guy runs into him. There's nothing Sanchez can do to get out of the way anymore, while in this situation Sanchez actively swipes at the ball. Now, I know he does get the ball.
It is clumsy,
he still actively swipes and makes the other guy fall over. So, I think this is not a penalty. But I think this is roughly evenly as much not a penalty as the one against Bournemouth, which they did hand out. Because, I don't know, a slightly on the lucky side for this one.
But I think the reason I think they do give it as a penalty in the first place is because of the way in which he collides with Jones after the fact. Jones goes absolutely flying. He does get the ball, and I think maybe slightly, again, with Robert Sanchez, and it was a theme today, decision-making wasn't the best. I think his particularly wasn't great, but decision-making all over the park wasn't top, and that was just another good example of that, I think, even though it did go our way.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'll bring up a couple of quotes from post game in a second. Then we go into our player ratings. I just want to react to what a few people have said in the chat. Varne is saying Sanchez is Kepa. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into his player ratings very, very soon. But
Kepa beat Arsenal yesterday.
Exactly. To be fair, though, Arne Sanchez did also already save a penalty this season, but that was also frustrating when the Salah one, because Salah's pen wasn't good at all. Obviously, it's harsh to be, criticizing a goalie for not saving a pen, but had he just guessed the right corner, it's an easy save. Because Salah wasn't doing much of like trying to bait him in any direction. He just shot it real hard in the half middle of the right, in the right middle of the goal, I guess, half height. Do you know what I mean? Like, just weird. Mason says, I was waiting for us to start peppering that goal. It never came. We played the same whether we're winning or losing. There's no sixth gear, no extra level to go right now. The team's too new. I mean, yeah, I don't fully disagree with that. But the problem is, if we start peppering the goal, then we keep giving away the ball. We play against a good team. They start getting the ball. And then all of a sudden, if we start doing that, we just never have the ball anymore and don't have enough moments to really create if you just shoot every time.
Yeah, true. But at the same time,
you can't overdo that either.
When you're 2-1 down with like a few minutes to go, that's kind of what you have to do.
We did have a couple of chances at the very end. Like, I was more frustrated by the last 20 than I was by the last 5, if that makes sense. Like, there was, like, we did properly try in the last 5, but the last 20, I was like, that's for left wing, switching Neto's side, even though he was good on the left. Why would you switch him then?
Had a really strange game, really. Like, because like the first 15 minutes we were all right. The last half, I would say the last 20 minutes we weren't great. The last 5 minutes we were good. The first 15 minutes we were all right, and everything in between that wasn't great. Like, it's a really strange. Like, usually it kind of, you grow into a game or die out of a game. We had this weird thing where we sort of started well and ended well, and in the middle we just went and it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, unfortunately. Now, I thought I'd bring these up because I thought in particular Reece James's comments were rather interesting. Now, Maresca says, the only thing I can say is that sometimes in this stadium, the decisions are for the noise of the crowd. And I kind of agree with him. But to an extent, this is like, okay, whether we talk about VAR or not, that's always been part of football. That's why home advantage is a thing. And that's why teams that have strong home support usually have better home advantages than teams with less good home support. That's part of football. Has always been part of football, will always be part of football. So I'm not too upset with that, but I think Maresca worded it quite right. And I think this is more about the 50-50s during the game. I think the Sancho one shouldn't be affected by the crowd. Like I said, the ref couldn't have even seen that. This is just about, does VAR look at it properly or no? That's kind of the decisive thing on that note. But the 50-50s, that foul by Badiashile on Darwin Núñez, never in a million years is that a foul. The yellow card, on who did he give a yellow card? On Jackson. When he goes in to just clap Sanchez, sure, probably also to distract Jota. And you can, Salah. And you can talk about that it's stupid from Jackson. And yeah, it probably is. But does the ref have to book him for that? Like, he hadn't blown the whistle yet to let the game go. So I know he isn't in an ideal world allowed to be in the box. But because the game hadn't restarted yet, there's also nothing, as far as I know, quite literally saying he's not allowed to be there while the game hasn't even restarted yet because the whistle hadn't gone. So does he need to do that? It just felt like those kind of 50-50 decisions that I didn't like from the ref.
One of those, that might come under delaying the restart. Because you can't
then
start
blow the whistle while Jackson is in the box and then book him. Don't just book him.
Yeah, but it's a technicality, isn't it?
It is, but I hate stupid yellow cards in football. It just feels like I'm not watching sports anymore. It feels like I'm watching kindergarten. Like rolling the ball away 10 centimeters is a yellow. Clapping is a yellow. Saying ref, I disagree with you, is a yellow. Like, everything's a yellow card. Like, it's just ruined.
Decision-wise, we should probably move on from it, really, because decision-wise, that didn't affect the game either way.
No, absolutely. But just quickly on Reece James's comments, he says, I think we controlled most of the game. They had chances, but we had a few as well, but we didn't take them. We are definitely moving in the right direction. The scoreline doesn't reflect the game. Now, do I believe that a draw would have been the more fair result in this game? Yes, I do. In terms of how everything went, even with the way the decisions were given. But I think to say that we controlled most of the game,
yeah, it depends what you mean by control. Did we have a lot of the ball? Yeah. Did we do anything with it? No. If that's control, I would hate to see out of control.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't think the midfield was maybe as open as some other people thought today, but
Oh, I thought we were
Yeah.
wide open today. I
Yeah,
really
I know
did.
you said that. You said that obviously if we look at stats, by the way, we did have 57% possession. Certainly didn't feel like that to me anyway. In terms of XG, we had 0.93, they had 1.63, so you can't, but obviously 0.93, I think they usually give pens, is the pen. So, and we didn't have a pen. So, without their penalty, they had less XG than we did. So think of that when you will. We
I
also
know
had
what you
more
mean.
shots.
When you look at it that way,
less on
like,
target.
the pen is the difference.
Sorry?
When you look
Yeah.
at it that way, the penalty is the difference, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
and that's frustrating. But like you say, I'm a little hesitant to get too on the referee's back. I don't think he was great today, but at the same time, I don't think we did enough to win. So, like I don't want to just foist all of the blame onto the ref when we ourselves weren't good enough.
Yeah, no, that is fair. That is fair. It's a tough one. Like, I still kind of stand by what I said earlier in terms of, I just think this game we just got a bit unfortunate with timing of moments. By that I mean, well, we could have had a pen, don't get it. Then we get away with one, but they have another situation to potentially get a pen again 2 minutes later. That time they get it. Then we kind of have one half moment just before half time, don't take it. But then we equalize so soon after half time. They also ruin our celebration a bit, like in terms of how much the momentum can shift by the celebration, because the line of flagged it as offside immediately. And fair enough, and it was very close, and VAR did its job, overturned the goal correctly given. But still, the celebration, the elation, the boost of adrenaline probably isn't quite as high if you celebrate the goal that way than if you just celebrate it properly, if that makes sense. And then we prepare a triple sub, maybe only a double sub at the time. It was literally happening. So you had Vega getting ready and you had Enzo Fernandez getting ready. And maybe you had who was the other person that came on? Oh, Badiashile. Maybe you had Badiashile also already getting ready. But that was a planned substitution because Reece James obviously started the game. We'll get into the starting 11 in just half a second. And this was after 55 minutes or so. You see Badiashile getting ready, you see Vega getting ready, and you see Enzo Fernandez getting ready. So Reece James comes off because he was probably always planned to play 55, 60 minutes. Okay, makes sense. But if you take Reece James off, you need to shift Gusto to the right-hand side. Okay, but then the whole centre-back position shifts. Okay, he takes Badiashile, brings Badiashile on for Tosin, puts Colwill back as the central centre-back, Badiashile on the left, because the whole back three kind of shifted around. Makes sense. And also Lavia, similar position to Reece James, isn't quite ready to play much more than 55, 60 minutes. So he's also subbed off. And it was all planned. And as they were already getting ready, we conceded 2-1 within 2-3 minutes of us equalizing initially. And there was a reason why those guys were taken off. And I also think Reece James is the main culprit and is at fault for the goal we conceded. If we just get it over that moment, make the sub, you don't have the probably already tired and maybe not quite there anymore. Reece James probably already sees, okay, I'm about to come off. It's just unfortunate moments of timing, I think. I'm not saying I agree with Ollie. We didn't necessarily outright deserve to win. I 100% agree with that statement. But I also don't think we deserve to lose. And I think getting a bit unlucky with moments is why we lost in the end.
That is where I think I disagree with you a little bit. I think we were poor enough to lose today. And yeah, the moments didn't go our way. But I think if we get a result out of that game, we're looking at ourselves going, flipping heck. We were lucky to get something out of that.
Yeah. But then again, we looked at the XG. Do you know what I mean? If they don't get the pen and we get the pen,
yeah,
that's why I'm saying I don't think we deserve to lose, if that makes sense. But then again, the way we defend, especially for that second goal,
I think for me it was a question of impact and threat. Liverpool looked so much more threatening when they went forward than we did, across the whole game, and I think that on balance that makes it so they deserve to win more than us. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't think that's far off, to be honest. But I mean, just quickly looking at the 11, obviously Reece James made his comeback. Somewhat surprisingly, with Fofana being out suspended, Cucurella being out suspended, Reece James and Lavia essentially replaced those two. Gusto playing over at left back. What did you make of the team? Obviously, now we can also speak in hindsight. In hindsight, did it go well? I mean, Reece didn't seem to get injured. And Lavia didn't either, so I guess from that perspective, it's not bad. But
that's the biggest positive, I think, is that James and Lavia both played, 60-odd minutes, 50, 60 minutes, and didn't get injured. Yeah, they can both play one game a week at the moment, so that's what they're doing. I'm just really pleased they didn't get injured at all. Hopefully this will be the start of them being able to build up a bit of fitness and a run between them. I thought the team was. I was quite excited by the team. I was interested to see what Gusto would do on the left, because I know he played there, I think, once, maybe last season under Pochettino, and he did all right.
I think in pre-season he played there twice this summer.
Yeah, so he did okay. Gusto seems to be a lot like Maresca's utility man. He kind of moves him where he needs him. I will say that a lot of people were expecting Vega to play there. And when Vega did come on eventually and played on that side, or sort of in the midfield, but also on that kind of left-hand side a lot, he did look all right. I thought he looked fine. I know a lot of people were concerned about the idea of him, having to chase Salah back, and that makes sense. But so I don't know. I'm sure we'll get into Gusto's position, but overall, I thought the team was set up reasonably well. I think it was about as good as we could do with the personnel out that we had. So, hard to argue with it.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, just to let me shift it around how we kind of played in possession. What I expected when the lineup came out was I expected this, essentially. And you can argue that this is what we got. I'll get SofaScore, the average positions up later. You can argue that this is what we got, but I would make a case that we got a bit more of this. Then it was actually a midfield three, and then Gusto kind of just managed to fill that left centre mid spot.
Yeah, it was more like a box midfield, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is a little bit surprising because this is a big gap to cover. And that's why I personally, I was really impressed by Gusto. Now, there was this one really bad left-footed cross, sure. He also had a couple of shots that he really shouldn't have gone for, fair enough. But I think in principle, in terms of providing a passing option, dribbling past players and carrying the ball forward in this channel, and also, other than once, being always there to defend Salah and defending him really well every time, I thought Gusto did a good job in that perspective because it was a bit more the two midfielders stayed as the two midfielders, and then Gusto did a lot of running just instead of going outside, overlapping like your traditional left back often would. He kind of inverted or inlapped or underlapped, if you want to call it that. So I'm going to leave it as a 4-2-3-1 on screen.
I think if I was going to do it any differently, what I would have done is, I agree. I think you needed Lavia and Caicedo in the middle there, and they did a good job today. But Gusto, that is a lot of area to cover. When instead, what I would have done personally is I would have had Gusto already playing right back where he's supposed to play, but like sort of overlapping. He becomes like the right winger, and then Palmer and Noni both slide across left. I think that would
feel like that Noni is good at that. Don't you think Noni needs to be wide? That's his whole thing.
No, I think he links well with Gusto when Gusto over and underlaps.
I think if you do what you said, I think then you need to take Noni out the team, play Palmer right wing, and play Nkunku in the middle.
Maybe.
Then
maybe in hindsight, Maresca maybe thinks maybe that's what he should have done, but it's difficult. It's tough.
It is difficult. But let's get into.
You know what? Just play someone else at left back and just put Gusto at right mid for the game. Just have him and Reece swap going up and down the line. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't like Gusto's delivery very much. So that's why when Gusto is in that area, he just frustrates me very often. And I just don't think he exudes danger like Noni does. So I would never want Noni not on the wing in that situation. Even though I get your logic 100%. I would have, to be honest, I didn't have an issue with Gusto. I think Gusto did his position fairly well. I think Gusto defended really well. When if you played Vega there, Vega wouldn't have been more of an attacking threat than Gusto would have been. So
no, I agree with that. I think you did all right for someone playing out of position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But let's get into the ratings. Let's start with the goalkeeper and let's have a meltdown because, it's why does it? Other than Mendy for 6 months, why does it have to be that for 6 years we haven't had a good goalkeeper? Why do we have to live this reality? I don't understand, man. Like, he's such a liability.
He's a mess.
He's a mess.
So much. I'm fed up with him. I'm totally fed up with him. People were so quick after the Bournemouth game to be like, maybe he's good. Maybe we should have some faith in him. And I said, no, just wait, because he'll always cost you more points than he wins you. And we proved that again. He proved it. He proved it at Forest. He proved it partially at Brighton if it weren't for a Palmer masterclass. And he proved it today. He's not good enough. He just isn't good enough.
I agree. When that was super early in the game, when he tried to pass it out back to Reece and he got it intercepted by, I think, Gakpo, maybe it was Jota, whoever was trying to press him and close him down. And he passed it straight to him and it bounced back into his hand. Like, that is so lucky. Yeah, and he had another couple of moments.
A lot of his passes were very wayward today. And again, this is a player who apparently everyone, lauds and raves about because of his passing ability. And his passing is arguably the riskiest and most dangerous part of his game. With not that much upside. And so I don't know, man. Our goalkeeping position is the weakest position in the whole club at the moment. We need to upgrade badly. In next summer or even in January, we need to be spending big money on a world-class keeper.
But there is no world-class goalkeeper out there, though. Because we'll go spend 60 million on what Diogo Jota, and he's also not good enough.
Then we got to drop a world record fee or something, bro. I'm so sick of this. I'm sick of it, man. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're being sarcastic. I truly hope so. I assume so. Yes, you are. Cheers for that. I was literally going to suggest to you, you need to watch a different sport if you thought Sanchez was our best player. But Ollie, what rating would you give him? I've seen a couple of 4s, 3.5s in the chat. What do you make of that? I mean, do you think we maybe should speak about that as we speak about Sanchez. Do you think he should have done better for the second goal?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I think I mentioned it in our group chat actually, you know, like when you're a goalkeeper in that position, right, you have got to make yourself big. And Sanchez spent that entire sequence in terms of when he had to try and save the ball, making himself as small as humanly possible. He was doing his best pencil impression. He would have done more defending.
This isn't the first time he's done that exact same thing either, by the way.
If he had stood there like this and stood as still as he could and like tried to make himself as thin as possible, if he stood side on like this, you know, like he couldn't have made himself any smaller than he did.
Do you think this is a case of like making the center of himself as big as he can?
No, you know what I mean. Like yourself. That's what keepers.
No, I know. But if you obviously do the movement that you just did, like doing that, you obviously kind of inadvertently kind of increase the gap next to your chest, if that makes sense. If you don't have your arm there, so I guess it makes it easier to put it straight past the chest. Shoot through. I'm just speculating why he would do that because it just makes no sense.
It's absolutely baffling to me. It was absolutely terrible. If I was a defender and my goalkeeper did that, I would be throwing hands, bro. Honestly, I would be so frustrated. Like how are you doing that? How are you a Premier League level keeper and you're not making yourself big? It's goalkeeping 101. Goalkeeping 101. It is the basics, and he can't do the basics. He's 6'6". He's got a huge wide wingspan, and he stands there like this. What are you doing, bro? Like, I can't do it. 2 out of 10 today.
You know what? I agree. I was thinking, you can give him a 4, but honestly, when I was thinking about giving him the 4, I kind of forgot that he should have done also better on that goal. Because I do still believe that Reece James is the main culprit for the goal, if I'm honest. Because Sanchez could have done better, but him doing that better, what we're talking about, doesn't necessarily stop the goal. It gives him a bigger chance of stopping the goal, but it doesn't necessarily stop it. If Reece James just sees where Jones is running, that can factually stop the goal. So that's why I think he has more blame. But Sanchez is part, like, I want to say just one last thing on that. The first pass we played in the game, because we had kickoff, and then we passed it straight back to Sanchez. And then the first thing Sanchez did is punt it long for Jackson to be in an aerial duel against Virgil van Dijk. Have you ever heard anything more stupid? Like, we don't have Drogba, man. This is not Drogba or Giroud. No, it's Jackson. The one thing he's not good at is in the air. And what do you give him? A long ball against Van Dijk. Sorry, did you not want to have kickoff? Like, what is that? Because when he
didn't want the ball, man.
Exactly. When he loaded up for the long ball, I thought he was at least playing it to Noni. But maybe that was his plan. It was just a bad pass. Neither of which looks particularly good on good old Sanchez. But that really annoyed me. I'm like, what the flip are you doing, man? So, yeah, give him that too. And just 5 days after me and Pice on our podcast, by the way, link is down in the description, and Chelsea Unfiltered, the latest episode from last Tuesday, consists of season so far player ratings. And we actually were fairly positive about Sanchez. I think we gave him like a 7 so far this season because we were like, he had 1 or 2 not great games, but he also had 2 games, 3 games where he really saved us, to be fair to him. And what does he do? Have an absolute howler at Anfield a week later. Brilliant. Cheers for that, Rob. But yeah, also cheers for that, Mr. Sporting directors who also always love to suck themselves off and telling us how great they are.
Stanley Stewart, Ben Roberts, the goalkeeping coach, all of you, total disgrace. Every single one of them
on Willy Caballero either.
Every single one of them should be sacked for signing Sanchez alone.
Yeah, 1,000%. That's why you should be sacked in the first place. 1,000% agree. Let's move on. Ollie, because we only got half an hour until I need to go, let's pick 2 players each that we want to talk about for a bit longer. And the others, we kind of like just give our ratings and say like a sentence or two, so we can actually get through this team, because otherwise we're gonna be like rush.
I would recommend we don't talk about Gusto much, because we already kind of talked about him.
Yeah, that is valid. Well, you know what? Why don't we just get Gusto's rating out of the way? What would you give him, bro?
I know you said he was good today, but I wasn't impressed. I would give him a maximum of 5.
Okay. I'm struggling because I'm thinking like 6.5. 6 to 6.5.
I'll meet you in the middle at 6 if you want.
Okay. Because I was thinking, do we give him 5.5 or 6 then? But yeah, that makes it quick and simple. Levi Colwill. I guess he is one that we maybe could talk about. Maybe I'll pick him as one to talk about, because, well, we gave away the penalty that inadvertently in the end lost us the game in terms of when we looked at the stats and the XG numbers and stuff. His passing was good in moments. He also had 2 or 3 bad ones. But you felt as soon as in the second half, as soon as that sub happened for Badiashile coming on for Tosin and Colwill shifted into the middle, he went up a gear. And you could tell, in my opinion, he was so much more comfortable as soon as he got moved into that position, which just infuriates me even more. First of all, that Badiashile isn't better and not trusted. Secondly, that we decided to replace one of the best defenders in history, Thiago Silva, with Tosin, who's barely good enough to be a top half of the table Premier League defender, in my opinion. But on Colwill, I mean, bro, you need to just you nearly give a penalty away, and 2 minutes later you nearly did the same thing and give a penalty away. That's frustrating. And the way he looked, like he didn't think it was a pen, at least in the heat of the moment, he didn't. Maybe he was just shocked that I screwed up. I don't know. But purely because he gave away the penalty, I think I'm gonna have to give him a 4. Maybe I could push a 5, but I think because he gave the penalty away, I'm gonna have to give him a 4. Otherwise, I thought it was decent, but the penalty, man.
We know how it works. Well, your guys' chat knows how I work on here. I talk a lot about the impact players have in games, right, in terms of their performance. Like, so a player can have a good game, but otherwise a couple bad moments can really define how their game went. And yeah, Colwill just wasn't on the level today. Certainly in the first half. Second half, he was better, especially when those subs were made. He, like you say, he went up a gear, but that wasn't enough to save him from his first half performance. Maybe it was something more of a tactical thing, because like you said, when he did shift in the middle, he was a lot better. But just really shows how, even despite how much he played left back last season, he's still not very comfortable defending wide areas at all. So I think a 4's fair.
Fair dues. You move on to Tosin, unless he's one that you want to pick out. All I really want to say is I don't think it's good enough, and I hope we can now put this weird theory that some fans had that he's somehow better than Fofana and should be playing ahead of Fofana when Fofana is available. I hope we can now put this to bed, because that is not the reality. And I was pretty disappointed by him more than anybody, really. Because
three for me.
He was abysmal. Bad,
Yeah, he was absolutely abysmal today. Just couldn't do anything right. Passing was wayward. Defending was sloppy. And bear in mind, this is the most experienced person in this defense, other than Sanchez. It just goes to show that age doesn't always equal quality, and neither does experience. Because him and Sanchez, the 2 oldest players in our entire team today, were horrendous. 3 for him.
Yeah, no, fair. I do agree with that 3. Also, we can't forget about that either. Even though me and Ollie both think that it was the correct decision by the ref, on another day, maybe he does get sent off purely because they think now.
And you can't blame anyone else.
Maybe we need to send him off.
Bear in mind as well. The other thing I want to say about Tosin is, I don't know if anyone else saw this for the penalty for Salah's penalty that was given. Tosin spends the first half of that, when Liverpool have the ball, he's sprinting into midfield, creating huge gaps in behind when the ball then goes over the top behind them all. Yeah. And I'm just like, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing at all? Like, his position,
especially as the central centre back, you're the last one that you should be creating a gap right in front of goal.
What are you doing, pressing from centre back, bro? Like, just fucking stay where you are. They've got the ball.
Exactly. Tosin then. Reece James made his comeback. Is he one that you want to talk about, Ollie?
I'll talk about him really, really quickly. I thought he was fine. Thought he did an all right game. I was really just relieved he didn't get injured. The one thing I will say, but I do think this is more of a tactical tweak than anything else, because he was playing sort of like that right centre back, so he wasn't really playing classic right back. But every time Liverpool had an overload, it was on his side. Every time.
But they never did anything with it, to be fair.
No, they never did anything with it. But like, I don't know if it was him or it was the tactical setup, but there was just so much space there. Like, and we can't be doing that if we want to, win any points against anyone this season. So
interesting,
5.5.
because I felt Reece just dealt with it so well that it didn't really bother me that there was so much gap around him, because I feel like when you have good players, you can do that. But when you have in positions where you don't have such good players, you need to like fill it a bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like, I'm just not very comfortable with having those kind of spaces in behind, and Liverpool did really well to exploit that today. I would give him a 5.5. I'd say. I think he was marginally worse than Gusto, but overall, like, to be expected for his first game back in a while.
Okay. Did you? Because I would have given him a 5, because I think he did badly on the goal we conceded on the second one. Because
that's true.
You can see the as the cross comes in, you can see him stepping up and trying to play who I think was Gakpo and Jota offside, and he did. To be fair, he did play those two guys.
He just
offside.
Didn't see Jones, but arguably Jones was Tosin's man as well. Like,
I mean, maybe, but Reece was closer to Jones. Like,
yeah,
you
but
could
like,
maybe make an argument: should Caicedo have been anywhere near? I'd need to watch it
like
back to
in
really...
that kind of like Liverpool front four that they kind of were making in possession. Like, it seemed to me like it was Tosin's man, but maybe you're right.
I hear that, but because obviously, I guess someone will have to be on the main centre forward who they had, which was obviously Jota, and then Curtis Jones made the run from deep. Now, either that's the DM or the person that's not marking anybody. Who wasn't marking anybody? Reece James. Who had the whole thing in front of him? Reece James. All he had to do was look that way. He would have seen Jones, and he could have covered it.
Tosin was totally ball watching in that moment as well. Like that second goal was a real disaster class in defending. There were a lot of mistakes.
No, I agree. I
agree. I think James was at fault.
Once the ball's played, Tosin's too far away to do. Like, yeah, he should have been in a better position in the first place. I agree, but once he wasn't, he can't do anything about it anymore. Reece could have. That's why I think it's more on Reece. Do you go along with my 5, or
yeah, 5 is fair enough.
Fair dues. Fair dues. We move on to Moises Caicedo. I'll keep this one quick and short. I think it was good. A fantastic assist and a fantastic pass to Jackson. Also, the pass to our first chance of the game when Jackson hit the outside of the post. That was also a through ball from Caicedo. And yeah, I genuinely thought he was fairly good. Not amazing, but fairly good. I'll say 6.5.
He was poor in the first. Well, not poor, but he wasn't at his best in the first half, and in the second half he was a lot better. He was a lot more combative, cutting himself around a bit more. I think 6.5 is fair.
Very good, very, very good. Could I maybe say 7 because you got an assist? Maybe, but I mean, like I was just talking about, if a midfielder is pushing up into the box from midfield and scoring, you need to look at where your DM is. Again, I need to watch it back. Maybe Caicedo had good reason to not be the one following Jones in that moment. But
it's part of the reason I would say like, the midfield was really open still.
Jones
today,
is coming from that area. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Liverpool consistently had an extra man in midfield, I think, and it just didn't help us. It didn't help us at all.
Fair dues. I mean, hey, some people think it would have gone a lot higher for Caicedo. Man strikes at 7.5. JP says 6.5, 7. Alsti says 8. One of the more standout midfielders for us. Caicedo was my MVP too. 6.7. Or did you mean 6 or 7, probably? No one should get above 6.5. I don't think anyone will.
No, I don't think anyone will. I don't think there's any danger of that.
Yeah. Like I say, you could have given him a 7. The reason why I'm debating whether I should have given Caicedo a 7 is because I'm tempted to give Lavia 8, but Lavia has a few more kind of excuses. 1, being injured until now. 2, being 20, and I know Caicedo isn't that much older either, but still being 20. And 3, and first and foremost, well, having been injured for a year, playing one game, then being out again, and the two games the guys played was against City and Liverpool. I mean, it doesn't really, and at Anfield as well. It doesn't really get much more.
Games. He was very good.
Exactly. Like he had only 1 misplaced pass today, 22 out of 23, 3 successful dribbles out of 3 attempted, 1 out of 1 accurate long balls, 1 out of 2 tackles won, 5 out of 7 ground duels, which is much higher percentage than Caicedo, by the way. You know what? I'm going to change my mind on no one's getting higher than a 6.5. I think Lavia warrants it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Lavia was our best player today, and he only played an hour. So, says it all.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm very, very happy with him. Very, very proud of him. And, I mean, to play City and Liverpool away as your only 2 games this season and be our best player in both. I mean, that says a lot about how good a player is. So fair play to him.
I think Enzo Fernandez has got to watch his back. I do.
Say that again.
Enzo's got to watch his back. Number 8 Enzo has got to watch his back, not manager Enzo.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. I mean, I did find it interesting when Fernandez came on today, and initially was playing a bit deeper. Now, as the game went on, he was higher again. But initially, he played deeper, and he was spraying passes to like Neto and the other side. I was like, finally, he's there doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Because the amount of times I sit there, and I like Caicedo a lot, but the amount of times I sit there and we get the ball, play it through the first line of press, ball gets to Caicedo, and I see either the left wing or the right wing in absolute miles of space. But Caicedo doesn't go for that ping. He can, and every now and again he does do it, but not that regularly. And I'm like, if just Enzo played there, you would have that ping every time, and it would allow us to just so consistently create threats.
Caicedo prefers the line breaker, doesn't he? Like the assistant to Jackson, he prefers that kind of pass than like pinging it over the top.
Exactly that. What I do think, though, Lavia provides next to Caicedo, why it provides good balance is because Caicedo, even though Caicedo likes to run as well, Caicedo often likes to keep it simple or play a decisive through ball. While Lavia is very happy doing a bit like Kovacic, very press resistant, a little shimmy, and then run past 2 players and then feed one of the attackers. And I love that about him. I absolutely love that about Lavia, that he does that. We move up the pitch, though. Cole Palmer. Unfortunately, one of his quieter games for us, wasn't it?
Well, I'll go further than that. I would say that was Cole Palmer's worst game for us.
What? I mean, that's a statement on it. I can't remember every game from last season.
But to be fair, can you? It's certainly one of his worst games for us, if not the worst game for us. He really wasn't involved. I don't know if it was just because Liverpool stacked the midfield a lot. They were, trying to isolate him or whatever, but he just couldn't get into the game. He was marked out of the game for 80-90% of it. I'm not going to dig him out too much because he's built up a lot of goodwill. But today he wasn't good. So I think I'd give him maximum of 5 today. Maximum.
Shall we do 4.5?
4.5, I think would be fair.
Yeah, because a couple of moments. One, was it in the first or the second half where he had a good opportunity to shoot, put it over? That should be at least on time. I think it was just before half time, actually. That probably our best chance of the second half. Of the first half. So that should be at least on target. Then he had that moment where I think Neto created really nicely from the left, and he should have just laid it over to Madueke. Now, there's no guarantee Noni would have scored, but Noni was in a better position to score than Palmer was.
Yeah, I think Palmer was feeling the pressure to get a goal there, and he made the wrong decision.
Yeah, no, I do agree. We move over to Jadon Sancho, who I want to talk about for a moment because he frustrated me today.
Not good enough, was he?
Because I was going into this game thinking, now there was a lot of debate in our group chat, like who do we start on the left? Should it be Sancho? Should it be Mudryk? Should it be Neto? Mudryk in the end not even making the squad, which I still think in hindsight was probably a bad mistake, the way we were shifting Neto from left to right, and then you bring in Kunku on for the left. If you just had Mudryk, then you would have just been able to have 2 wingers from the bench. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, I was going into this game when it was Sancho. I was like, well, everybody always says Trent is terrible at defending. Sancho has so far been absolutely phenomenal at 1v1 dribbling. Now, not always like going for goal after, but beating his man and then putting a good ball in the box. That's what was Sancho's bread and butter these games for Chelsea so far. And he failed with that on every single occasion today. I mean, I can look at the stats. I would be surprised if he said a single completed dribble. Yeah, the
only time he got the better of Trent today was when Trent tried to give him.
Yeah, exactly. When he should have had the penalty. That is the only one. But otherwise, he literally got beat every single time, and that really frustrated me because I'm like, a player that's supposed to be bad at defending, in particular 1v1 defending, and our player is a guy who so far in the last 5 games, every time, it felt like he beat his man every time he tried to beat his man. And today it was just so far the opposite that really annoyed me. So because of that,
hooked at half time. Wasn't he hooked at half time as well?
Yes, he was. And he was replaced by Neto.
I would give him a 3.5. I thought he was really poor. He didn't show enough today. In theory, the matchup for him was really good. With his dribbling, Trent's not the best defender. Should have been able to tie him in knots and do something. And I was saying before the game, if not, you chuck someone like Mudryk on or Neto on to go run against him, run against hard legs for the last half an hour. But I'm so happy he got hooked when he did because he was not good enough today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Varna asked for the stats. He had 18 of 21 passes, 0 out of 3 dribbles, 0 tackles, 0 out of 3 ground duels. He didn't go into any aerial duels. Now, I did to praise him for a little something. There was moments in the first half where my commentator and the pundit actually mentioned when we couldn't see Sancho on screen, but he mentioned that Trent made a run and Sancho followed him all the way, even beyond our centre back. He followed Trent the whole way, which is good discipline from him, and obviously something that Sancho has got criticism for, discipline over his time. So that's why I think that is still a small positive that I want to pick out and mention it.
That's what the 0.5 is.
Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. And the other 3 is for the 3 dribbles he didn't complete.
Yeah.
There you go. Noni Madueke. I thought by far, Jackson.
He probably was our best attacker today. Most of our effective attacks went through him today.
Yeah. No, exactly. I was going to say best attacker, but then Jackson scored. So kind of on par, I guess, in terms of in the end. But in terms of threat, I think Madueke was by far the most dangerous. I did think I would have wished him to go more 1v1, in particular early in the game. I felt in the second or at halftime, Madueke was probably told by Maresca, go 1v1 more. Because in the first half, he didn't do it as much as I would have liked and as much as I'm used to from Noni. But I think he did enough to get an average 6. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, just about. I think
because I 5.5 if you want.
No, I think 6 is about fair because I thought personally for me, I thought he was better than Gusto. If you're looking at to compare players who had a similar score, I thought he was better than him. Just in terms of attacking threat and whatnot. But when that's your strongest attacking player of the day in terms of actual threat, consistent threat throughout the game,
people are not happy with us, are they? 5 from Mason,
4.5, yeah.
5 max. To be fair, it's the same person, but still. Noni Sterling, 4.5 again, 5.5. Shall we give him a 5.5? Is that maybe more fair? Overdoing it?
Yeah, all right, we'll go 5.5. But it's not when he's your most threatening attacker throughout the day, and that's his score. It just says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Jackson, though, did we just give him the 6 because he scored?
Yeah, he gets a 6 because he scored, and if he didn't score, he'd gotten a 3 because he really basically wasn't in the game at all.
Yeah, I mean, I know you are a bit more like that, and you explained it earlier in terms of how much you value impact on game. I always say, especially for strikers, and I use that excuse for Havertz many times, when you play an opponent and you don't get the ball to the striker that often, that's not necessarily on the striker. But what annoyed me about Jackson a little bit sometimes today is when he did get the ball and he tried to lay it off or whatever, they were loose very often. I remember one that he tried to put back to Gusto and he kind of put it up in the air. One to Caicedo that kind of was supposed to be an on the floor little layoff. It kind of bounced in the air as well. Those are frustrating ones, I got to say. But the goal was fantastic. Great finish, great run. So I think a 6 overall is still somewhat justified.
It says a lot. I think actually it also probably speaks to how good Liverpool's left hand of their defense is. I mean, you had Van Dijk is on that left hand side, and obviously Palmer and Noni didn't really get much of a sniff. So
yeah, no, exactly. Obviously, I already wrote down the first sub, Pedro Neto. I think he is another one I would like to speak for a moment. Would like to speak on for a moment. I thought this was more what I was hoping for from Neto. Now, I know in the end he didn't score, but that ball that Nkunku could have done a bit more with was a great ball. That run through the middle that in the end kind of sets up that whole Palmer, should he have passed it to Noni moment. That was a great run. And he just did what Sancho didn't do all game long. Now, he didn't go around the outside much, which I kind of expected him to do a bit more. But he managed to beat his man. He managed to be dangerous. He managed to create. So as a sub appearance, I know he played obviously the whole second half, so he gets a full rating. I think is 6.5. What would you give? I was thinking 6.5, maybe 6. Now that we only gave Noni a 5.5.
I think it's got to be a 6. I think he was effective. He drove with the ball well. Created space, made things happen. But lacking in the final third.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Give him that 6 then. What were our next subs? Then obviously we made that triple sub after 53 minutes.
Buddy Shield came on for Tosin, didn't he?
Yes.
Actually, I would like to talk about him just for 30 seconds. He was much better today.
I agree.
He's been absolutely terrible as of late, and he was much better today. So I would give him a 6 because he didn't really put a foot wrong when he did come on. Got into it a bit with Darwin Núñez as well. So I don't know. Yeah, but 5, 6 ish. Better than he's been lately because every time he's played lately, he's been dropping 2s and 3s. So
Yeah, and I don't think you can blame him for the goal. Now, do I think he got a bit rattled by Nunes? A little bit, because in the first one, when Nunes obviously fouls him, and then he tries to give it back, but he kind of... No, I think the ref just gave us way too soft of a foul, but in the end, he kind of lost that whole moment anyway. Like first he got battered, he's annoyed, and then he tries to do a little back, like reverse foul. Doesn't even give him a proper shove, but still gets booked. Gives them not get booked, but still gives them a free kick in an unnecessary
thing as well. Because 2 minutes after Darwin fouls him, he knocks him down again, and the ref just doesn't do anything.
No, of course,
really annoying.
Just refs in it, just refs. But yeah, no, he did good. He only misplaced one pass. He had 3 long balls, successful ones, 2 out of 2 aerial duels, 2 out of 4 ground duels.
Yeah, he looked pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I agree with you. Renato Vega, mate. Obviously had that header, fairly big chance that you can argue.
No, this is why I don't know if you can see that. I've written no headers FC underneath my little caption for today because no one at this club can head the fucking ball. Absolutely nobody. I'm fucking sick of it. We're not going to either. If we might not score a header. I don't know if I can't remember if we scored one already.
Yeah, we have. Jackson scored at Wolves with the head.
Yeah, he scored. That might be the only header we score all season.
Well, yeah, in the Premier, because Vega scored against Ghent with the head as well, to be fair.
Yeah, in the Prem, I mean. Because we are absolutely fucking horrendous in the air. Absolutely horrendous.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. And like in particular, like Nkunku already missed 3 absolute sitters with this head this season. And Felix obviously had the one against Forest as well, which maybe not a sitter, but still a big chance.
I'm fed up of seeing my players who can't head the ball. I want them in training with.
I want Drogba. All I want is Drogba, man. Just give me Drogba, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Vega did decent though. I can't lie. Like
6.
What I liked most was that little flick he had. When that flick he did to Neto, I'm like, bro, look at him. He's like 6'10". That's what he looks like anyway. I know he's not, but that's what he looks like. My guy's got wider shoulders than Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo put together. My guy's doing backheel flicks at Anfield, so I rate that. But yeah, you can't do too much. I don't know.
5.5 sounds about right. Didn't really impact the game all that much, but he was no better or worse than any other defender, any other fullback we had today.
Yeah, no, that is true. Enzo Fernandez, I mean, only misplaced 3 passes, but yes,
he's a traffic cone in midfield.
It was difficult today because his position was difficult to judge today. Because first he started deeper, where if he plays deeper, then this is a slightly different conversation, but then he was higher in the end again, where I'm like, what are you doing there? So yeah, make of that what you will. Very interesting average positions here.
You want to pull that up? Let's have a look.
Yeah, I'll just bring it up. I just got it. Like, I didn't think Reece was quite that high on average personally, but sure. Because this is more almost saying 2-4-4 of a formation.
What in the reverse Christmas tree is this thing?
Yeah, but realistically, it's more of a 3-3-4 more than anything else, I guess.
Yeah, you know what?
But interesting where Gusto is, right? Oh, that's because Gusto shifted once he made the sub. That's why he's in the circle.
But reflects how crowded it was in the middle there.
No, but it doesn't really, because Gusto is only there because he played 1 half left, 1 half right.
Yeah, but even when he played on the left, he was kind of a lot of the time in midfield positions, and even when on the right, he was doing the same thing. So he's more than maybe he should be, but yeah,
there you go. I mean, if I show the subs, Enzo Sandy was deeper. If I include the substitutes that were on the pitch, so yeah. Honestly, I know he played the same amount of minutes as the other 2 subs that we just spoke about, but I honestly don't even know what I honestly give him an NA. But
yeah, I agree with that. An NA. I just can't. I don't know what else. He just didn't do anything. Like nothing of note. So just like I don't know how to rate that really.
Exactly. And then the last sub, before we talk about the manager and finish it off there, Nkunku obviously gets an NA as well, but what I quickly want to say is I don't understand this sub at all. Why didn't Nkunku come on for Madueke? And initially I thought, okay, Palmer will shift further wide so we can get Palmer on the ball more, because that's what I felt was
can be in the middle, play, how he does.
Had what? let me see. He had 47 touches today, which isn't super bad, to be fair. But considering we had 57% of the ball, I think we should have just tried to get Palmer
he
the
was
ball more.
anonymous today. He gets an NA because he didn't play enough minutes, but if he did, he would not have gotten a very high score from me.
But for me, this is the one time where I'm like, Maresca, what are you doing? This is like if he played Disasi at right back again, because we saw Nkunku on the left against City, and we saw that he doesn't do anything there. So he brought it on, and as soon as that sub happened, we just didn't attack anymore until the last 5 minutes of the game. And it was just really infuriating. Like, either you bring him on for Jack, or you bring him on for Palmer, or if you bring him on for Noni, you make Palmer go wide and play Nkunku in the middle. You don't put Nkunku on the left and make Neto switch position when he's had a good 20 minutes on the left. Why are you doing that? It makes no sense.
If you're really going to go for it, take off one of the midfielders. If you can just say, fuck it, take off Caicedo. Put him on and just attack with 6 players. What you got to lose when we've got 10 minutes to go and we're losing anyway, you know?
Well, the fans' reaction. If we concede a 3-1, the fans will not be happy. Like, in principle, I agree, and that makes sense, but...
The fans already aren't happy. We are the fans, and we're not happy.
They are. On Maresca, I quickly bring on a quote from him from a post-game, which is similar to the Reece James lines. Maybe we just saw it differently to what they did, because he also said our performance was very good. I've been in the stadium many times and it's not easy. We controlled the game and for the most part we dominated it, but we lost, so we're not happy. Now, we certainly didn't dominate nothing. Maybe you can say we controlled, but we didn't control with much useful purpose, if we're being honest. Now, sure, part of that was Sancho being incapable of beating Trent, because I felt, especially in the first half, we put Sancho in good positions many times. And if he just beats this man, we're in great positions to score goals many times. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. That's not the manager's fault. He allowed us to put the winger into a great position, but the winger was incapable of beating his man. But still, do you think he still goes, like Reece, goes a bit too far with how good we supposedly were?
I think they're just trying to keep the positivity going. Like ultimately, I think that a lot of them will reflect on today and say, it was a tough game against tough opposition and we weren't good enough to beat them because they were better than we were. And you can take that in a positive or negative way. They're choosing to take it in a more positive way. I think that probably makes sense for the team, because I think now we have to have a good attitude going into Newcastle, because that is now a must-win game. Because if you don't, we didn't pick up points against Palace, we didn't pick up points against Forest.
No, we did pick up points against.
Sorry, we didn't pick up 3 points against Palace and Forest. And that's 6 points. It's 4 points dropped effectively in both of those games. So now we need to take a big. We could have afforded maybe not even to draw, not necessarily win against a team like Newcastle. Now we have to scalp them. We have to win, which puts a lot of pressure on them. Yeah,
it does. What rating would you give Maresca, bro?
I give him I don't want to give him more than a 5. The Nkunku and Neto and not putting Mudryk on the bench at all it makes it so it can't really be much higher. I don't think he set us up terribly. I think he set players up to succeed and they didn't deliver. But at the same time, I don't know. We just ran out of ideas, and that's ultimately on him to try and change it up and make something different happen. And realistically, putting Neto from the left to the right or putting Nkunku on the left isn't doing anything new, and it isn't doing anything threatening. So, yeah, I don't think it can be more than a 5.
Yeah, I probably would have gone 5.5 maybe, but I'll go.
We can go 5.5.
No, I'm happy with the 5.5 as well. Just super quickly, as the last thing before I wrap this up, when I react to Austi's comment here. Maresca's subs were horrible. Liverpool scored the second goal and he still brings on defenders. Now, please, guys, you need to think of context. Football is not just about the result on the pitch. For flip's sake, be glad that we finally have a manager that actually looks after the welfare of our players. Like, yes, he could have. Okay, I'll leave Reece on. I'll leave Lavia on because he's been good. But no, these players had to come off. Do you want Reece injured again? Do you want Lavia injured again? All we do as fans for the last 3 years is we complain about injuries, and now we have a manager who's managing the load of players, and people still complain. Like, those subs had to happen. Badiashile coming on for Tosin had to happen because we shifted Reece James out of right back, and then it was Gusto, and Gusto was not going to provide the same stability, so you had to put Colwill in the middle, and then because you can't play Tosin in the left, you had to put Badiashile in the left. And because Lavia was also not fit to play more, you had to bring Enzo on for him. What else do you want? You want Dewsbury all coming on? Like, think about what you're saying, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, bring on defenders. Like, yeah, because the other players weren't fit to play more. Like, yeah, it is what it is. flip's sake. Obviously, it was bad timing, unfortunate timing, but don't have a go at making those subs. That's just stupid. But yeah, there you go. There's maybe one last quote that I can bring up because it baffled me a little bit. Or not quote, stat. That maybe I want to end it on. Maybe that's a slightly more positive way of looking at the situation. Liverpool had 8 shots today, their lowest at Anfield since 2021. Chelsea conceded 28 shots last season and lost 4-1. Purely on the topic that, you know, we were so open and they played through us so easily. I don't think it was that easy because 8 shots, if they haven't had that since 2021, it can't have been that bad. You know what I mean? But I'm going to end it on this note, ladies and gentlemen, because I need to go. Ollie, thank you very much for joining me today. Ladies and gentlemen, please do check out all of Ollie's links down below. His Twitter, you can see it on screen as well, Ollie J. Carpenter, as well as his podcast at The Bridge Pod. The link to, you know, their link tree to all the podcast platforms is down in the description. So please check those out. Check out mine and Pice's podcast, Chelsea Unfiltered. A new episode will be live Tuesday evening, as it is every week. Of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit that like button on your way out. And thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and I will see you next time.